what exactly did they do wrong to deserve the extended time in the wilderness? I would like to first put the question in front of you and see what do you feel is the right answer.
I would say that, God wants people who trust Him, and the first generation, they didn't believe to God, so He said to Himself that probably the next generation is gonna trust Him. So that's like the present to them, that they can go to the land. That's how I understood it.
What was the crucial point of disobedience? What did the first generation do wrong? Johnny?
After they wanted to stone Joshua and Caleb, they decided by themselves to go into the promised land and fight and protect them by themselves without worrying about going.
I think straight after they were like, they didn't believe God basically, and then God told them, okay, so you're going to go into the desert, and then you're going to go again for 40 years, and then after that they realized, oh, actually God had said, so now we believe Him, let's go anyway, but God had already spoken that you're going to go into for another time until, so it was giving a chance to the next generation, because the last generation had disobeyed or didn't believe Him. So I guess He was keeping to His promise, but trying again what people were going to believe Him.
I would also say that the disobedience that caused this extended wandering in the wilderness was when they did not obey God and did not go out to conquer the promised land because of what the scouts reported. At that moment where they're like, we can't and we won't, period. And these two guys who are speaking out this challenge, this insane challenge, let's shut them up. I think at that moment, that was the part where God says, well, fine, then you won't. And then the next episode, where they do realize that, oh crap, I think we really missed a chance here, and they try it, I think that was more than just a demonstration that without God, and without obedience to God, they would fail. They had nothing. So I would say the crucial moment is when they believe the wrong people and they don't trust God to move forward.
I have a question. Because writing the homework in the redemptive plan, I find it hard to, because why was this land important? I understand why it was important for them not to be in slavery, but was it important that it would be the specific land, or I don't know how to place it, that we needed to be there, somewhere there.
Why was specifically the land of Canaan important?
For one, Canaan was like the guy Canaan who was cursed, so all the descendants were cursed and should be pushed away from the land. And also, it's God has already promised Abraham that this, when he was in the land Canaan, that this is the land that his people are going to be, that his descendants are going to be at. So it's basically just sticking to the promise that God already gave to Abraham. If that's why they also had to go back to that land.
Do you understand it?
So maybe it's not the specific land. Like if they would be somewhere else, maybe it would be a different land that is just good to live in, or I don't know. Because Abraham was somewhere else where there was no something about this land, or is it just some good land to be in?
It's the land that God chose
Yeah.
for them, not because it's the most fruitful land or because it's the easiest to conquer or anything like that, but because God chose it and promised it to Abraham, it became their promised land, the one that God promised to them. You?
Yes, I will deal with that question when I am going to teach in the kids. Okay, geographically, God put in right place the Abraham descendants, because God promised to Abraham, I call to bless you, and through you the nations will be a blessing. So when you take down the south part is near the Nile, the great civilization flourish. That's actually Egyptian civilization, and the up it is actually Euphrates and Tigris. In between, the civilization developed. That's actually the Babylonian or Mesopotamian civilization. So, God want to reach out the nations. So that's actually the God's aim. So, these two nations, they have a lot of trade, lot of things to carry out, and God want to influence the world. Then God put them in a right place. That's actually between these two nations. That's actually,
it's a strategic place. This is the land promised to Abraham. As Dino said, down here there's this huge empire, Egypt. Up here there's some more empires that are going to develop, Assyria and Babylon, and they're right here in between. So,
and also here is a Hittites, and here is a Assyria, here is a Babylon, and here is how do you say, the great civilization, Egyptian civilization. So there is only two ways to go to here. Usually one way through the sea. They don't go in between here. Maybe the seashore near. But when you come here, there is a lot of mountains. You cannot go with this area. So two ways only. One, it is a Benjamin Plateau. That's actually near the Jerusalem. So I will deal with those things when I am teaching. Then another way is the from this mountain, like here, Jezreel Valley. So this way only they can connect it to that. One highway is here, one highway is connected to here or here. So God put them to influence the nations. That's actually is the God's aim, to influence the nation. That's the reason God gave the law. You will be my people. You need to, the aim of Yahweh to influence the nation through the people of Israel. That's geographically is a significant place to influence the nation. That's the reason God gave that. And God promised to Abraham, but in justice of God, didn't allow God to give the right away until the nation corrupted. They are not able to leave the Canaanites, Ammonites, and so, Moabites. Then God judgment through the people of Israel, and God put them there to influence the nations. Actually, that is the redemptive plan, why God put them in geographically the specific place.
yes. So I would summarize that to say Abraham's promise, strategic location to influence other nations, and as judgment over the people who were living there.
Soll ich das wiederholen? Also wir haben das Versprechen an Abraham, und wir haben hier ein strategisch gutes Land und auch mit Handel eine praktische Stelle.
And this specific land was also chosen because God wanted to bring judgment on the peoples who were living there.
Und das Land wurde auch erwählt, weil Gott sein Gericht über die Leute bringen wollte, die dort gelebt haben.
And basically taking them out of it.
Und sie dort rausschmeißen wollte.
And how did God describe this land?
Ja. Wie hat Gott ihnen das Land beschrieben?
A land overflowing with milk and honey. Yes.
Ein Land, in dem Milch und Honig überfließen.
Beautiful picture, isn't it?
Schönes Bild ist es.
The land I will
Yes,
give.
actors intolerant.
The land I will give to you and your descendants for an inheritance.
Das Land, das ich dir und deinen Nachkommen als Erbe geben will.
The land I promised to your forefathers.
Das Land, das ich deinen Vorvätern versprochen habe.
Is there another burning question?
Gibt es noch irgendeine brennende Frage?
Just wanted to ask, how long was the time like coming out from Egypt and then when God said you have to stay 40 years into the desert? Like how long was this period?
How long between the coming out of Egypt and the first attempt by God to bring them to the promised land? If I'm correct, it was the second year after the Exodus.
Yeah, that's actually Numbers 1:1 is talking about the 1 year, the second month is starting with that. Numbers 1:1, 1 and 2. So 1 year there, then 38 years in the area. How to say they are wandering, then 1 year to go up. Total it is 40 years.
So they spent about 1 year at Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
And
More than
after
that.
that, they could have already entered the land.
It's very short. When did Moses mess up? Like, why did he not? I know there was something that I couldn't find it. Like, what did he do wrong to not see, not go into the promised land?
I think this is the perfect question to pass on to the rest of the class. We're kind of like it's crowd knowledge, or what do you call it? Crowd intelligence.
Collective.
So, what was Moses' mistake? Why did he miss his chance personally to enter the promised land? Ready?
Yeah, instead of the second time they wanted to have water in the desert, God told Moses to speak to the, or to say that the water should flow out of the stone, but he disobeyed and hit the stone with his stick.
Always complaining.
So,
Yeah.
why exactly was that wrong? Because Moses showed a little bit too much emotion, or
Or
what was the problem?
specific.
The
What's
God
the
wanted
problem?
to show his glory, that he only speak and the water comes out, and hit it a bit more.
He is in right place, but a little more specific answer he is waiting.
Well, he disobeyed God, he didn't follow his instruction exactly. So, Bino, what was the problem with that?
No. He is very close to that, and he need to only just say.
Okay.
He was angry.
Right. I think in a way, there's a lot of passages that talk about this later. In Deuteronomy, Moses keeps saying, like, you guys, it's really your fault that you made me angry and then I missed out. But then there's also one place where God says, you and Moses, you did not show me as holy on that day. And what I feel like what happened with Moses there, he got angry and God showed him the right rock and he hit it with his staff and he kind of provided water for the Israelites instead of letting God do a miracle and glorify himself. I'm not sure, I can't prove that. But when God says, you did not show my holiness, I think basically Moses, the way that Moses acted at that moment as a leader, did not point towards God's glory. Did not let God be taken center stage and be glorified. And at that moment, that really mattered to God. God said, not that way. You know, I've put you in a big place of authority. I'm doing all these things through you, but you always need to remember who is your God, and whose authority you're speaking this, and leading the people. And so I think there was a very significant message, because at that moment he was doing it in his own strength, not pointing towards God, and kind of, taking away a chance from God to be glorified. And I think God really taught him a lesson, and also the later leaders of Israel, about how God doesn't appreciate that, about how he doesn't put his blessing on the leader when he acts like that. Wow, good questions. Well, yesterday we had this whole block about covenants, and Bettina described to us what these ancient covenants looked like. What were the parts that were included in it?
Und gestern hatten wir den Vortrag, den ganzen Block über Bünde, und Bettina hat uns erklärt, hat es auf sich mit den Bünden.
And she drew up all the parts of the covenant on the board, and it was only in German. Sorry.
Und sie hat das Ganze auf Deutsch an die Tafel geschrieben.
And I tried to translate it and explain it as best as I could.
Und er hat versucht, es so gut wie möglich zu übersetzen.
But today I actually have the English version for you here.
Heute gibt es eine englische Version davon. Ja.
So this is what one of those treaties usually look like.
Und hier haben wir eine Option, wie das solche Bünde Verträge
And the
aussehen.
cultures that surrounded the Israelites at this time.
In der Kultur, die die Israeliten damals so
Like
benachbart haben.
the Hittite
Wie die Hethiter
culture, for example.
zum Beispiel.
Check it out. This is what Bettina already told us yesterday. It starts with a preamble,
Fängt mit dem
which basically says who's involved in this treaty.
das grundlegend besagt, wer ist denn hier überhaupt inbegriffen.
Then we get the historical prelude.
Dann haben wir den historischen Prolog,
Which describes what is the history of this agreement? What is the situation? How did it come to be made?
und es beschreibt die Geschichte, wie kam es jetzt dazu überhaupt.
After that, follow the stipulations.
Danach kommen die Stipulationen.
What does stipulations mean? It's basically the rules that both parties will have to abide by.
Das heißt grundlegend, dass die Regeln sind, die beide Parteien folgen müssen.
Of course, mostly the weaker party in this agreement.
Natürlich hauptsächlich die schwächere Partei.
Then we have blessings and curses, basically as consequences. If you do the right thing, if you obey, if you are faithful to the covenant, you will get blessings.
Und dann haben wir die Sanktionen, Segen und Flüche, also wenn du die Segen, die drauf kommen, wenn du dem Ganzen folgen wirst.
And also curses that were spoken out. In the case of the Hittites, it would be all sorts of pagan gods that were supposed to curse you and your family and your flocks if you disobey this covenant.
Und dann die Flüche, das war natürlich bei den Hethitern, dann wurden dann die unglaublichen Zahlen an Göttern aufgezählt, welche dich verfluchen sollen und dich zerschmettern und mit allem vernichten sollen und alle deine Familie, wenn du dich nicht daran hältst.
Then there was a part of the covenant that talked about how we're going to make 2 copies of this covenant. One for you, one for me.
Und dann wurde am Schluss gesagt, ja, dann machen wir jetzt 2 Kopien, einen für dich, einen für mich.
And the higher king, he would actually say, I want you to read this out among your people every so often, every year, or every 7 years or so.
Und der größere König hätte dann wahrscheinlich gesagt, ja, ich möchte, dass das jetzt jedes Jahr oder alle 7 Jahre unter euch vorgelesen wird,
So that you remember that you owe allegiance to me.
damit ihr euch daran erinnert, dass ihr mir Nachfolge schuldig seid,
that you're in this covenant.
dass ihr in diesem Bund mit mir seid.
And finally, the last part was witnesses that were called up about the sealing of this covenant.
Und als letztes wurden dann die Zeugen aufgerufen, die bezeugt haben, was da passiert ist.
And now the cool thing is that the book of Deuteronomy as a whole actually follows this structure.
Und das Geniale ist, dass das Buch, 5. Buch Mose, genau das als Struktur verfolgt.
And this is one version that I found about how the chapters of Deuteronomy can be divided up in terms of such a treaty.
Und so habe ich das vorgefunden, wie man das genauso strukturiert sehen kann.
I'll let you copy it down real quick so that you can then actually pay attention to what I'm saying.
Ich lasse euch das erstmal abschreiben, damit ihr gleich aufpassen könnt, was ich sage.
So in the preamble, it starts right in the first chapter. It's the first 5 verses of the book.
Präambel. Das fängt im ersten Kapitel an.
Where it says, "These are the words that Moses spoke to all the people."
Wo da steht, das sind die Worte, die Mose zu den Leuten vor Israel in der Wüste hielt.
And what is super interesting to me is that a lot of those Hittite treaties began in exactly the same way.
Und das Interessante ist, diese Hethiter-Bündnisse haben genauso angefangen.
These are the words that so-and-so, the high king, spoke.
Und da heißt es dann, dies sind die Worte, die dieser und jener Hochkönig sprach.
And so this preamble, this prologue here, this preamble in the first 5 verses, it describes who is involved in this covenant.
Und diese Präambel beinhaltet in den ersten 5 Versen, wer ist da hier überhaupt inbegriffen.
And where were they at the moment?
Und wo waren die im Moment?
And then we get through the historical prelude, which is the rest of chapters 1 to 4.
Und dann kommen wir zum historischen Kontext, der den Rest des ersten Kapitels bis zum 4. Kapitel sich durchzieht.
And I know you've already read this yesterday.
Ich weiß, ihr alle habt das gestern schon gelesen.
Maybe you notice how much Moses seems to dwell on the past there, and he describes some of the things that happened in the wilderness.
Vielleicht bemerkt ihr, wie sehr Mose da sich irgendwie in der Vergangenheit wälzt und die vergangenen Dinge erwähnt.
And you might feel like, Moses, you're being pretty negative. You're retelling the story in a way that's not too flattering to the Israelites.
Und man könnte jetzt meinen, Mose, also da treibst du es an den Israeliten schon arg rein und erzählst es ja jetzt nicht wirklich auf eine Art, die irgendwie positiv darstellt.
But I think he just told them how it was.
Aber ich glaube, der hat ihnen einfach gesagt, wie es war.
What we already saw there in those first 40 years was the Israelites' unfaithfulness and mistrust.
Was wir in der Zeit gesehen haben, war, die waren untreu und haben nicht vertraut.
But at the same time, God was faithful, and He was forgiving, and He provided for their needs.
Aber Gott war treu und Gott hat vergeben und er hat sie versorgt bei allem, was sie gebraucht haben.
So in this part, in the historical prelude, God, the High King, shows how well he has cared for them so far.
Und in diesem Teil zeigt er eigentlich, wie Gott sie versorgt hat,
Despite their rebellion
trotz ihrer Rebellion
and all of their failures.
und all ihren Fehlern.
Then when we get to chapter 5,
Dann kommen wir in Kapitel 5,
we get to the part of the stipulations.
wir kommen zu den Stipulationen.
Check out chapter 5, verse 1.
Seht euch mal Kapitel 5, Vers 1 an.
Moses called all the people of Israel together and said, "Listen carefully, Israel. Hear the decrees and regulations I'm giving you today, so you may learn them and obey them."
Mose rief alle Israeliten zusammen und sagte ihnen, hört auf die Gesetze und Vorschriften, die ich euch heute gebe, prägt sie euch ein und befolgt sie gewissenhaft.
And he repeats a lot of what already happened at Sinai. He repeats the Ten Commandments.
Und er wiederholt einiges, was schon am Berg Sinai passiert ist. Er wiederholt die 10 Gebote.
And then until chapter 11, he's challenging them to live by this covenant.
Und bis Kapitel 11 fordert er sie heraus, nach diesen Gesetzen zu leben.
To obey with their heart
Mit dem Herzen zu folgen
and to worship God alone.
und Gott allein zu preisen.
And then in chapter 12,
Und dann Kapitel 12,
which you'll get to this afternoon,
wo ihr heute Nachmittag zu kommen werdet,
you get another whole body of laws. I mean, it's like
da kriegt ihr noch einen ganz anderen Brocken Gesetze.
12 to 26. Yeah, that's about 15 chapters or so of pretty specific laws for the Israelites' lives.
12 bis 26 sind fast 15 Kapitel, oder rund 15 Kapitel, die dann ganz schön viele Gesetze aufzählen.
Which basically explain how to live out the Ten Commandments in those different parts of life, in those different situations.
Die grundlegend einfach nur erklären, wie sollt ihr die 10 Gebote in allen Lebenssituationen ausführen.
And then we get to chapter 27,
Und dann kommen wir ins Kapitel 27,
where God says, when you get into the promised land, there's a specific mountain, actually 2 mountains, where I want you to make another ceremony.
und da sagt er, wenn ihr in das Land kommt, dann gibt es da die 2 Berge, da möchte ich, dass ihr eine Zeremonie abhaltet.
And then these are the blessings and the curses that you will speak out there.
Und dies sind die Flüche und die Segen, die ihr da aussprechen werdet.
Interesting to see, a lot more curses than blessings, but
Interessanterweise viele Flüche mehr als Segen.
if you look at the blessings, they're pretty amazing.
Aber wenn ihr euch die Segen anschaut, dann sind die schon ziemlich genial.
And I guess overall the message was that if you trust me and if you go into your inheritance,
Und die Botschaft war wohl einfach, wenn ihr mir vertraut und in euer Erbe geht,
and if you keep discovering that and unpacking that with me, it's going to be amazing.
und wenn ihr da weiterhin das erlebt und auspackt und das einfach mit mir genießt, dann wird das genial.
It will be such an adventure,
Es wird ein geniales Abenteuer.
and I will take care of you there.
Und ich werde mich um euch kümmern.
But on the flip side, if you go into this land and then you act just like the people who lived there before,
Aber auf der anderen Seite, wenn ihr da reingeht und euch genauso benehmt wie die Leute vorher,
then you are throwing away all of this beauty, all of this possibility that I'm offering to you.
dann schmeißt ihr die ganze Schönheit, die ganzen Möglichkeiten, die ich euch biete, weg.
If you live no different than the people that I'm taking out of the land now, then you will also have the same consequences as they do.
Wenn ihr jetzt genauso lebt wie die Leute, die jetzt da sind, dann habt ihr auch die gleichen Konsequenzen wie die Leute, die
And
jetzt
you
da
will
leben.
lose this inheritance that I'm offering to you.
Und ihr werdet das Erbe, das ich euch anbiete, verlieren.
That's one way to look at the blessings and the curses.
So könnte man die Segen und Flüche ansehen.
And then very interesting, we